simple. It's to introduce the poets who are reading today. My name is Mildred Badia, and we have 3 poets. And I will just introduce them through their bios. And then after that, the reading, once the reading begins, you know, one reading can flow into the other. But the poets should feel free to say anything else that I do not have on the bio, or frame their work any way they choose. So the first reader is going to be Marjory Wentworth. And Marjory Wentworth is the New York Times best-selling co-author of Out of Wonder, Poems Celebrating Poets, and the author of the prize-winning children's story, Shackles. She is also the co-writer of We Are Charleston, Tragedy and Triumph at Mother Emanuel, and Taking a Stand, The Evolution of Human Rights. Her most recent collection of poetry is One River, One Boat. Her poems have been nominated for the Pushcart Prize 7 times. From 2003 to 2020, Marjory served as the Poet Laureate of South Carolina. The second poet reading today is Brian Griffin, and he holds an M.F.A. in creative writing from the University of Virginia. His fiction, poetry, and essays have been widely published in literary journals and anthologies. His collection, Sparkman in the Sky and Other Stories, was chosen by Barry Hanna to receive the Mary McCarthy Prize for short fiction. His poetry collection, Single Lens Reflex, was selected as a finalist for the National Poetry Series 2018 competition, and Brian has taught writing at the University of Virginia, Pellissippi State Community College, and the University of Tennessee. Our last poet is going to be Liza Wolff-Francis, and she is the 8th Poet Laureate of Carlsbad, NC. She has an M.F.A. in creative writing from Goddard College. She is a feminist eco-poet and has taught creative writing workshops for over a decade. Her writing has been widely anthologized and has most recently appeared in the Bombay Literary Magazine, Poets for Science, The Nature of Our Times, and Snapdragon. Her chapbook, Language of Crossing, is about the Mexico-US border, and her full-length book, 48 Hours Down the Shore, was published by Kelsey Books, 2024. So without wasting time, let us put our hands together and welcome Marjory Wentworth.
I'm just gonna steal something off the children's bookshelf. All right. I always like to end with a children's book. Yeah, okay. Hey, oh, this is great. This is a love fest. So just to say thank you, Mildred, there you are. So good to see you. And we met online when she was published in About Place Journal, when I edited it. So I'm telling, that's for Nicole's benefit, because she'd enjoy knowing that. So I love coming to Malaprops with a new book. And so thanks for coming out, because there's a lot of competition today, Mardi Gras and all kinds of fun stuff. So I guess we're each going to read about 15 minutes, and we'll stick around a little bit. We drove in, couldn't go on 40. We weren't sure if it was open, and started seeing the damage almost as soon as we were about an hour away. And some of you know that we moved to Charleston and a month before Hurricane Hugo hit. So, you know, my heart's with you. And I did participated in a big fundraiser back in Charleston where we raised $60,000 for the North Carolina Arts Fund. I think it's particularly to help the people who lost everything down near the River Arts District. So I'm going to open with the poem Carolina Umbra. And of course, umbra means darkness, and it's metaphorical and literal. Boats fly out of the Atlantic and moor themselves in my backyard, where tiny flowers, forgotten by the wind, toss their astral heads from side to side, mouths ablaze, open and filling with rain. After the hurricane, you can see the snapped open drawbridge slide beneath the waves on the evening news. You go cold imagining such enormous fingers of wind that split a steel hinge until its jaw opens toward heaven. Above the twisted house, above this island where the torn churches have no roofs and houses move themselves around the streets as if they were made of paper, tangled high in the oak branches. My son's crib quilt waves its pastel flag. But the crib rail is rusted shut, and you can't see my children huddled together on the one dry bed of this home filling with birds that nest in corners of windowless rooms, or insects breeding in the damp sand smeared like paint over the swollen floors. And the storm will not roar in your sleep tonight as if the articulations of an animal aware of the end of its life were trapped in the many cages of your brain. You can't see grief darken the wind rising over the islands tonight as the burning mountains of debris illuminate the sky for hundreds of miles. I see only the objects of my life dissolving in a path of smoke. All the lost and scattered hours are falling completely out of time, where endless rows of shredded trees wait with the patience of unburied skeletons accumulating in the shadows. Trying to get my footing here. That lost and scattered hours, I know you know what I'm talking about. In fact, I'm looking out and seeing people who experienced Hurricane Hugo and have also experienced Helene. So my heart goes out to you, but it's amazing how you rebuild and right and but you never forget. So part of the decision that I see happening here and is staying and as a community working together. And this is a poem I wrote a couple of years later. And you wait. I mean, hurricane season, you're going to all have PTSD. It's terrifying. So this is sort of a exploration of some of the ideas about that, and also just staying in a vulnerable place and a wounded place in so many ways, which the South is, we all know that. Hurricane season. The blood moon thirsts all night, listening to unspoken prayers. She tugs the sea beyond itself, while redundant waves retreating wash the yellowed marshes clean. In the heat that follows too much rain, people crowd the churches. On this September Sunday morning, their hymns begin to rise and slap the winds still raging. This is the music of bones entwined in mortal language, words of those who know the wind erases every footprint carved in earth, where water, tired as a dreamer, circling beneath oblivious clouds, blurs the variations painted on each human face. Into the open womb of the sea descend the ashes of our sins. What keeps us here? Not gravity or light, but rust on fences, holding every house of swollen wood, an ache, a tooth, the day moon adrift, grinding tiny islands down to bone. I'm just thinking of my order here. So I think I'll read the title poem. This is a book of occasional poems. Isn't that a gorgeous cover? Mary Fraser, for those of you who know her work. This is a full-length batik, and actually whoever owns this batik lives in North Carolina. We should try to find them. As poet laureate, you write a lot of occasional poems, and often for a governor's inauguration. And I was really interested in the poems that both Elizabeth Alexander and Richard Blanco recited at President Barack Obama's inaugurations. They really were people-oriented. And I was thinking of all the people who would not be at the inauguration of Governor Nikki Haley, second time around. So I wrote this poem and sent it in and thought they'd vet it, and they read it and didn't want me to come to the inauguration and didn't want me to read it. Which is a great thing for a poet, because then everybody wants to read your poem. Although the rate book banning is going, I don't think anyone with a banned book right now would say they recommend it, because it's sort of horrific right now. So I'm going to share this poem, and it's the longest poem of the group, but it's the title poem. And of course, what happened was Congressman Jim Clyburn heard that I wasn't allowed to read it at the inauguration, so he read it into the congressional record, and then a lot more people heard this poem than would have ever read it. So there you go. That was a moment of victory. It's true. Yeah, it's go figure. One River, One Boat, the epigraph by Elizabeth Alexander. I know there's something better down the road. Because our history is a knot we try to unravel while others try to tighten it, we tire easily and fray the cords that bind us. The cord is a slow moving river spiraling across the land in a succession of S's splintering near the sea. Picture us all crowded onto a boat at the last bend in the river. Watch children stepping off the school bus, parents late for work, grandparents fishing for favorite memories, teachers tapping their desks with red pens, firemen suiting up to save us, nurses making rounds, baristas grinding coffee beans, dock workers unloading apartment-sized containers of computers and toys from factories across the sea. Every morning, a different veteran stands at the base of the bridge, holding a cardboard sign with misspelled words and an empty cup. In fields at daybreak, rows of migrant farm workers standing on ladders break open iced peach blossoms, their breath rising and resting above the frozen fields like clouds. A John boat drifts down the river. Inside, a small boy lies on his back, hands laced behind his head. He watches stars fade from the sky and dreams. Consider the prophet John calling us from the edge of the wilderness to name the harm that has been done, to make it plain and enter the river and rise. It is not about asking for forgiveness. It is not about bowing our heads in shame, because it all begins and ends here. While workers unearth trenches at Gadsden's Wharf, where 100,000 Africans were imprisoned within brick walls, awaiting auction, death, or worse. Where the dead were thrown into the water, and the river clogged with corpses has kept centuries of silence. It is time to gather at the edge of the sea and toss reeds into this watery grave. And it is time to praise the judge who cleared George Stinney's name 70 years after the fact. We honor him and we pray. Here, where the Confederate flag flies beside the State House, haunted by our past, conflicted about the future, at the heart of it, we are at war with ourselves, huddled together on this boat, handed down to us, stuck at the last bend of a wide river, splintering near the sea. Well, the flag came down, didn't it? But, yeah. So just to say, when you do these occasional poems, and you're a poet laureate, you know, you have to do them. They have to be very image-based, because people often aren't going to be able to read them off the page. And you have to be pretty literal. And I think it's helped me write children's poems, and I'll share one of those in a minute. It's a different kind of poem to write, and you have to sometimes write for wonderful things like the opening of a food and wine festival, and sometimes for a horrific thing. I think I'll read Holy City, which I was asked to write this poem 2 days after the shooting at Mother Emanuel Church for the newspaper. And that's the kind of thing that happens when you're a poet laureate, like write a poem about the worst thing that's ever happened in your city. It's like, are you kidding me? But you do it, and you know, after writing the poem that I just shared with you, I got such a positive reaction, particularly from folks in the African American community, that I might have felt a little bit more capable of writing this poem, although everybody was grieving. And this summer, in June, will be the 10th anniversary of that shooting. I didn't know how to find language for that. And then I saw a video of Reverend Clemente Pinckney, who was the minister of that church and the first one murdered. And in the video, he's giving a talk and he says, "Only love can conquer hate." And I wrote that down and the poem just came. Holy City. Let us gather and be silent together like stones glittering in sunlight so bright it hurts our eyes, emptied of tears and searching the sky for answers. Let us be strangers together as we gather in circles wherever we meet, to stand hand in hand and sing hymns to the heavens and pray for the fallen and speak their names. Clemente, Cynthia, Tawanza, Ethel, Sharonda, Daniel, Myra, Susie, and DePayne. They are not alone. As bells in the spires call across the wounded Charleston sky, we close our eyes and listen to the same stillness ringing in our hearts, holding on to one another like brothers, like sisters, because we know wherever there is love, there is God. I wanted that to feel like a prayer. And I've read it a few times at Mother Emanuel and other churches, and people in a church context will bow their heads when I read that poem. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to feel like. It's still really hard to read it, but that feeling of coming together in a time of crisis is something I know that you've all been going through here. We have a couple more minutes, I think. I'm trying to keep track of my timing. So, you know, we're all living through this insanity, right? That is America. And I'm going to read one more poem. Oh, it is in the book. What am I doing? I'm sorry. For those of you who didn't hear me tell like 50 people, I couldn't find my car in the parking garage after Mardi Gras, and I'm just all discombobulated. I love that word. Probably my greatest honor as poet laureate actually was being asked to go to Nuremberg and read a poem for the 70th anniversary of the closing of the military tribunals. And the reason that happened is, and I'm really not kidding, I'm the only poet they know at the International Criminal Court. I swear to God. So Peter and I went over, and you know, I had to do this like in the courtroom, you know, and I followed the U.S. Attorney General. It was amazing. But I really had to think for months about what do I say, you know? And of course, there's a lot in this poem that I think really speaks to us today. And I just want to say it's dedicated to somebody really dear to me, Henry Barbanel, who was a Holocaust survivor in the Polish underground. He was 17 years old and they blew up a train right before the end of the war, just saying. And his daughter is a good friend. And he used to always say to us, you don't think the worst thing can happen until it does. And I know that's kind of something we need to think about. In the shadows of Nuremberg. Because we are forever weak and wounded, looking for someone to follow or blame, sometimes we become savage and change the rules to ease our minds. Clouded by delusions of power or fame, human beings can justify anything. But too often, things can go wrong in a hurry. And the masses go along as if their hearts were turned inside out, and hatred was something long hidden but there, like a riptide pulling below the glittering, smooth surface of the sea. Abandoning everything we know is right, we become tribal and primitive, tearing the ties that bind us one to another as if they were made of air. And love dissolves into something lost in the cruel cacophony. And though it may be far, there's always a storm swirling somewhere. The sea that connects and creates us holds the seeds of our destruction. Still, God keeps nothing from us. Each new wave is a renewal, every day a gift of our own making. So as we stumble from the shadows of the 20th century, covered in blood and ash, cradling the bones of those who are lost, we know there can be justice. The pattern has been set. No matter how long it takes, there is no peace without redemption, and without shadows, there is no light. Okay. I think I have one more. Yeah, I was going to read. Of course, I live in Springfield, Ohio now, so I have a lot to say about what's going on there. But we are not eating cats and dogs. Anyway, I'm going to end this. I love to end my poetry readings with a poem for children. So I didn't know I could write children's poems, and if any of you ever met Call Me Alexander, you'll know he can talk you into anything. But this book it's been a great joy, and we just did another one that with Chris, who passed away last week, Chris Conderly. So I'm reading this for him. I think Norton's going to do our next one. And this poem is Spin a Song. It's dedicated, of course, to the poetry of Rumi. It wasn't even supposed to be in the book, and I just kind of wrote it, and it ended up being the inspiration for the cover, which is like incredible. Equa Holmes is an amazing collage artist in Boston. And, because I think we're here to celebrate the arts and community, and Rumi just sort of transcended, every division that human beings could have. And for those of you who don't know, he was a 13th century mystic poet and translated by our friend Coleman Barks over in Athens, Georgia. And Beyonce and Jay-Z have a baby child. Well, now he's not even a baby, right? Or she. Yeah, Rumi, because Beyonce's favorite poet is Rumi. I love telling third graders that. They get very excited. And some of them know, they really know all the names. But this sort of celebrates, I think, the essence of Rumi and just being together, celebrating poetry. Spin a song. Walk out of your room beneath the morning sky. Let the sun enter your heart and find a way to keep it there. Make a song from the light falling through the air and dance even when you are alone. Dance if you are still sad. Dance when you are tired. Dance until your feet lift off the ground like wings. And later, when the stars are spinning in the night, put your ear to the ground and listen to the songs rising up from the earth. Everywhere you go, there is music. Thank you. Be careful with that.
Oh.
Yeah, I must.
Okay, I was sitting there wondering how on earth am I going to follow this up? And it made me think of the favorite album from high school, Four-Way Street, where Neil Young says, "Here's one guaranteed to bring you down." It's called Don't Let It Bring You Down. It sort of starts off real slow and then it fizzles out altogether. So here we go. My name's Brian Griffin, and this is my book is called Single Lens Reflex. Some of you may have heard of that kind of camera. Some of you. I was working in a church as youth director, a Unitarian church in Knoxville, Tennessee. And one day, my children were leading a worship service. Guy walked in with a guitar case, pulled a shotgun out, opened fire into a very crowded sanctuary with over 100 children in it. Killed a good friend of mine, killed the grandmother of one of the children, seriously wounded 6 other people. It was a hate crime. Found out later he thought of himself as a latter-day Confederate soldier, and I started writing like crazy. This is not a good book in the sense that I am trying to be therapeutic. I wrote lots and lots and lots and lots of poems. And one day I realized they're falling into categories. One category is what happened that day, in the moment. I call that lens, and that's the first section. The other was thinking back on it. I call those mirror, that's the second section. And then was an attempt to sort of think, where are we now? Call that image, that's the third section, and those are the parts of the single lens reflex camera. So I go, hey, I have a book. There was a fourth category of therapeutic poems, and they're not in. This is meant to not be good. It's not meant to make us feel better. I want people to understand what it's like. The shootings. I've never been the same. And neither have those children. And it happens all the time now. Okay. Lens is the first section, a little quote from Carolyn Forche, Angel of History. In God's name, a boneless string of vowels. One of the things that was really surprising and ironic is that our church is built on a Civil War battlefield. And I sent the children running up a hill to a Presbyterian church, and I realized that to get away in the chaos. And I realized I was sending them in the exact place where Confederate soldiers attacked the fort. And of course, this gunman was a latter-day Confederate soldier. This poem is called Who Could Ask for Anything More? Even the lawn a battlefield. General Sanders shot through the chest by Charleston boys far from home. Blood freezing on November soil, 1863. Now children flee in the traces of soldiers running from sanctuary to sanctuary through June bugs and honeybees and ghosts, saying, listen, listen, the sky is breaking to fossils, scatters of clover and limbs, showers of lead and glass, dogwood splintering through slime, all of it singing daisies in green pastures, singing mountains of stone and starlight, singing not death, just absence. To a child, insects are living dirt. Life encrusts the most sullen dream. Earth is flush, lush, barren of thought, crazed, covered in humor and doom. Tumors of ice, dazed sea, hushed rust. Something here never ends, no final bloom. Could I ask for anything more? Anything? Your chalked hand, maybe? Your clouding, dying eye? Music failing with the heart? I got rhythm. Do I have a prayer? Maybe to share the dirt, the dying, the same blank mirror we each saw blue in separate skies? I was addressing my dying friend, Greg, there at the very end. Here's another one. One of the things that ran through my mind was the Civil War. One of the things that happens in moments of trauma is totally irrational. Thoughts of my grandfather's funeral flooded my mind. I saw the blood pooled on the floor, and I thought of something from my childhood, of Chickamauga battlefield and something called the Bloody Pond. It ran through my mind. I wrote a poem. View from the Bloody Pond. It has a quote from Ambrose Bierce, his story Chickamauga. After slaking their thirst, these men had not the strength to back away from the water, nor to keep their heads above it. They were drowned. And this is true. This pond filled with the blood of soldiers from both sides. As a child, I played there. And this ran through my mind. View from the Bloody Pond. From here, the red sky wavers, trees, rubber, and glass shiver, air, glass water, dry muck of gun smoke, sound, mirror, light, muck in glass. Air cracked lips smear in sheen flow. The tongue pulls low, stiff stick in mud, face suck teething the deep mire. Something strong there, deep, sweet, wet, cake, snow cream, algae, minnow kisses, minnows, blood dull before that last flash, silent world sweet below the stain, and there the end, blessed, sweet, minnows, swarming, wet, sweet, slant glass, airless light. This poem, The Way a Minnow is a Dream. This pond is the palm of a hand. The way the eye is a scheme. The way the brain is a net. This pond is the flame of a dream. The way a wink is a fist. A thought, a fish. This pond is the glint of a robe. The way a glance is a blade, and memory, ice. Things I might have thought in those moments. From the New York Times, parents dove under the pews with their children, and the cast of young actors, they were doing the play that day, Annie Jr. And the cast of young actors, some of them as young as 6, was quickly herded out of the sanctuary. None of the victims were children. Turns out there are 3 of them have committed suicide. I hold nothing against death. Bring me autumn light and a graze of time's cocked fist, cattail seed, sailing a field, death of late summer's breath, the creak and cry of the cold fall cricket, eloquent in the loosening of each drawling moment, true to the end. No, I hold nothing against death. Yet in the pond is a child, the face of a child submerged in a wash of summer, when nothing comes of nothing, and nothing wins, nothing loses, oh, just a lost summer. I'll never hold light in the palm of my hand, never again sing the song of seed sprout. How does it go? Who are you? Who are we? How many dead? No one knows. Rumors ghost us. I walked disembodied through the air above them all, saw them in blood and earth, I feeling, smelling, hearing nothing, just the movement of bodies and wounds, cruel, calm, the movement there like something embraced, coiled in cotton. A cotton cocoon, soundless and timeless and never to end, just as it never began. Boll weevils, the gunman down, the men who tackled him like lovers clutched across his body, the silence and the overwhelming sense that all is well, we can leave now, as though in the lifting of 2 souls, the rest of us left the earth too, left our bodies, took a walk in a sanctuary of air that promised escape from the aftermath. Oh, help us in the aftermath. As though seed could sell blue air and take root there. As though coming back to earth were the last thing we should do, a betrayal. May you, sweet and loving dead, forgive me and my inability to fly to your aid, to embrace you one last time in flesh. May all the parts of us now hidden in shroud find one bit of solace beneath the pond, in the silence, in the blessed inability to know. May we see it not as end, but as mystery. May we reclaim mystery. Mystery, please. Here's one for the mirror section. Carolyn Forsyth wrote, "It is worse than memory, that open country of death." Here's one. It's called It. It is what it is. It was the one thing nobody expected. It was over as soon as it began. It was just one of those things. And it came as no surprise. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It came right out of the blue. It was in the cards from the beginning. It couldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened if we had had our act together. It was a total meltdown. It just gets better with time. It's not something to wear your pretty little head about. It's the kind of thing that makes you a better person. It's just a fact of life, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. It's totally without precedent. It's not what you would expect to happen in a place like this. It was right there in front of you all the time. It had a kind of aura about it. It caused everybody to get all bent out of shape. It has more than one explanation. It's what everybody said would happen all along. It gets you right in the gut. It was all part of a larger plan. It's not the kind of thing that floats your boat. It will haunt you for the rest of your life. It's not, it was as plain as the nose on your face. It's not as though anybody asked for it. It was bound to happen sooner or later. It just makes you scratch your head and wonder. It was what I said would happen, but does anybody ever listen to me? It wasn't exactly written in the sky. It's a tough nut to crack. It sucks. It could have been a lot worse. It just makes you stop and think. It grabs you by the balls and won't let go. It will drive you crazy if you think about it long enough. It was right there in front of you in black and white. It's the reason we go to all this trouble. It had disaster written all over it. It was not what anyone imagined it would be. It wasn't on anyone's radar screen. It couldn't have been more obvious. It just makes you sit and wonder. It keeps happening over and over again. It's nothing more and nothing less than the will of God. It will subtract 10 years from your life if you let it. It pissed everybody off. Don't get no worse than this. It's the kind of thing you just can't wrap your mind around. It wasn't as though they just walked up there and announced it or something. It was around us all that time and we didn't notice it. It's the end of the world as we know. It couldn't have happened to a nicer group of people. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. It's not something you can turn around and blame God for. It doesn't have to be that way. It's a shame it had to happen on such a nice day. It's not the kind of thing you come to expect. It's not like it was the end of the world or something. It was as plain as it could be. It screams out for an explanation and it has a logic all of a sudden. It's something you don't even have to think about. It's a total mystery. It's everything all wrapped up together. A trip to the moon on gossamer wings. It ruined all our plans. It looks like a duck. It quacks like a duck. It's no pink tea party, that's for sure. It is a duck. It won't amount to a goddamn hill of beans in the long run. It's written in the stars. It's not like it's rocket science or something. It's not as though the sun won't shine tomorrow. It ain't over till it's over. It's all of that and more. I'll go to the image section and skip a few here. image section, sort of thinking about where we are with it. Well, how is it now? Is the name of this one. Stored in boxes, jars, the way Mama did. She tried to be sweet about it. Food mostly, unspoken sorrow. I keep the wings of a bee in a brown wooden box with the smell of spent shells and a spot of blood scraped from my tie. A song that won't stop singing itself. Clover petals shriveled to black specks like desiccated ticks. Time is an asterisk. The humid air of that day, coagulated to a tear, dropped accidentally into a storm sewer in Boston along with those terror-filled eyes. And that sewer is under my sofa. Eyes, balls of dust, tears, rain that didn't fall, and the screams. I keep them in mason jars, sealed for freshness. They're on a shelf behind the chow chow, beside rows of Mama's last batch of green beans. The question is what? What? What the hell? What the hell to do? What the hell to do with all that? I'll skip some of these. You know, the last poem, and it's the one poem that might have a little bit of positivity to it. My friend Greg, I begged him to be an usher that day. I needed an extra usher. Yeah. He stepped in the path of the gun and took it right in his chest and shielding children. I grew up a Southern Baptist, and my mama was a classic housewife. They grew up in the Depression, all that. And Sunday was the one day that she didn't clean up the breakfast dishes because you had to be in a big hurry to get out the door to get to church on time. So she'd serve a big breakfast, we would eat it, and we would leave. And when we came back from church, there were all the dishes there and this amazing smell. You know, this happened every Sunday of my life growing up, Sunday. And I thought about Greg, you know, he was dead there, lying there, and his wife was there. She did the costumes for the play. And while I was speaking to the group, the police had us sequestered in there. And I was in the fellowship hall with all the people, and she was sitting there, and I looked at her and she just collapsed in her chair, and she had a heart attack right there in front of me. The paramedics were still there. I said, somebody check on her, and they rushed her to the hospital, but she survived. And so I was thinking about all that, and I wrote this poem. This is the last poem, At Greg's House After. And Carolyn Forsay wrote, one can live without having survived. There would have been an unmade bed, yesterday's shirt, lingering odor of morning's rush, coffee cup on the counter's edge, crumbs of bacon, orange peel, and on the lawn a scattering of tools, empty chairs, spears of grass, squirrels crazed on scurry, busy with acorns and pecans, mute in their brown skulls. Everything poised between knowing and the speech that will never come. There might have been wine in the cellar and on the table near the window, garlic perhaps, and olive oil, a bowl of tomatoes too red, skin too tight in this last slash of summer's light. His garden loosed now, his garden lost. Left behind always some kind of garden, some kind of evidence, some fleeting something saying, someone was here, something now undone, was once done here. To this, Greg might say, look, you tie your shoe. It comes untied, so you tie your shoe. He'd say, at the edge of oblivion or grace or God, no matter, we're busy. There are things undone, Brian. There are needs unmet. There is work to do. The world around us is busy. Stay busy, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Liza Wolff-Francis, and I'm going to read from my book, 48 Hours Down the Shore. And I think I'm going to switch up my set a little bit, actually. I want to read a response poem, Brian, to you and your work. See if I can find it really quick. Maybe I should have looked for it before, but I was so busy listening. That was a little bit challenging to do that. Well, I said that. I'm so sorry. The worst thing. Stare at me while I look at my book and try to figure out the poem that I want to read. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I'm not even finding the one I want to read, but maybe it'll, for some reason, I'm not finding it. I was not going to read it today. So my book is basically about going to Atlantic City with 3 women to write. And it's about kind of like a reflection on America. When I don't know if anybody's been to Atlantic City in North Carolina. Some people are like, no, I've been to Atlantic Beach. And I'm like, no, it's not the same. But it does have the same beautiful ocean and some casino weirdness that's a little bit, I think, a little bit of can be a metaphor for America. And I wrote about the time that we were there, and there was a school shooting at the time. And there was all kinds of stuff going on. So there is a poem in here somewhere about that. And yeah, it'll happen. But I'm gonna, I'll just start with some other poems, and maybe it'll appear. Yeah. Maybe this place is too like America, built up with bogus entertainment, spend your money to keep up the country kind of entertainment, that fake kind of dollar bill dreams on your happiness search, rather than long walks in sand along an outline of ocean that defines itself over and over, with every wave reaching up to the shore. Come, let's stand meditating in the wind, let the ocean wash over our feet. So when we were up there, I just was really reflecting on just being up there in the space with 2 women friends, and also on just what this place is, America, and and where we are in the world. And at the time, there was the murder of the woman in Iran who had torn off her hijab, and so that was also going on. My dear America, in Iran, people are being killed for wanting freedom for women. In Iran, people are being killed for speaking out. People are being killed for marching. People are being killed for standing for justice. My dear America, there is not one party holding a patriotic card. Democracy is a moving target, one for constant aim and realignment. We are always in relationship with it. Being a patriot means helping us move toward justice for all humans, for all creatures, My dear America, if you ask me if I love my country, I will answer yes. I love the people, the land, and the freedom democracy affords me to critique the systems that pretend democracy has been achieved and there is nothing more to fight for. Okay, let's see here. I keep thinking I'm going to see that other poem. I'm like, where is it? I feel like I don't read it very often because it can be just a different vibe. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Sorry, I feel like I'm like, so, yeah. Where I've been now, who I've been now, where I go. 1, I moved Georgia to North Carolina, moved North Carolina to California, moved some other places in between, moved New Mexico to North Carolina, everywhere in its place. Guess I'm a Southerner again. Southern is probably the closest place identity I own, but it's all America, isn't it? Aren't we? 2. In New Jersey, I'm taught to say down the shore and walking the boards. No one says that in the South. Some things are like same grocery store, different name. In Atlantic City, it's as if the beach was born with a boardwalk. I walk the boards of our country, America. When children are given your name, it begins with an ah, like an exhale from the throat, exuding adoration, like a grandmother in her scarf, her pleated skirt, sighing at the baby as the baby coos to the new world, a coming home. Yes. Okay. I was thinking about your poem about or some of the poems that sounded like the one that sounded like a prayer. And as the Poet Laureate of Carrboro, we read a poem every town council meeting, and it's like a prayer. Yeah, it's nice. I either go to read or send someone. And I feel like we could use that for our larger government. having a poem read before every meeting. Right? Wouldn't that help things maybe? In lieu of the meeting would be even better. That's right. That's right. Getting by. Where I'm from, nobody says they're headed down the shore or talks about boardwalks or says walking the boards or has memories of Acme Grocery or staring out at casino lights on this beach. But here down the shore is just another place with people getting by. I can't even name all the cultures inside this America. Each person inside several. The quilt as art also keeps us warm, woven of bloodlines, stories, lullabies. Talk might be drawn out with mm-hms or in short drop beats, luck bartered, soul sold. That's down the shore and down south too, and up north and more west and Midwest. People who shop at Acme, Safeway, Albertsons, Piggly Wiggly, Harris Teeter, Lowe's. On the beach here, a gull eats Burger King trash, pulls a bun from paper wrapping. A pelican dives into the ocean, flies out, dives again, just trying to get by. All right, so I brought my phone up here to keep time and then I'm not keeping time. Okay, so I'm gonna switch a little bit. There's 3 of us there down the shore. And again, with the guns. Armed women. This is not the one I was thinking of, but along the same lines. It's a little raunchy if anybody gets offended easily, sorry. Armed women. The news says there's a trend of more women buying guns, shooting guns, carrying guns, liberal and conservative. Even in our prettiest pink flapper dresses, like the ones for walking the boards to casino parties. Even in our most threadbare bikinis by the pool, guns hold more power than sex. First, they wanted us shaved clean, pussies and all, like children or seals. Then they wanted us hairy under our arms. They wanted us braless. Then with lacy push-up bras. They wanted us quiet, smiling. Now they want us armed, bare-breasted with bazookas and babies. Or maybe it's me who wants an army of women armed, taking back rights, they keep taking from me, taking back all they want from us, all we want for our lives, for ourselves, and for our children. Okay, just a couple more. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna do one more for, in this condo that we were staying in, and this is all kind of in here, it's this condo that like is so lovely, but it's way set back in the 70s. Everything is like shag carpet and just a crazy kind of from a different time. And they had this one button that was from Miss Universe that had been there. And I was thinking about that. And Miss Universe was in Atlantic City. In the condo kitchen, a large pink pin stick button with black and white letters announces Miss Universe in Atlantic City 2013. Imagine this place before the humans came. Notice how close the waterway and marsh are to ocean, a strip of land, built up buildings and houses on every plot. 16 floors up, gulls fly outside the window, their wings flap in wind that blows the tops of waves back. Mist sprays like a shook up soda can. No one says, look at that ocean, what a fine piece of ass, though we screwed it as if we had said that. No one says the ocean's proportions are perfect. Maybe we should say that, so ocean won't grow taller as temperatures rise, fish die, the North Atlantic right whale goes extinct, only a few fin whales left. Seems we always want to kill off that which is mightier than us, more wild, a soul flapping the wind. From the balcony, I see ocean, feel the wings of gulls in my body, taste salt air inside me, like I too might become mist and disappear. Okay, I'm just gonna read, let's see. I'll read two quick ones. So this is the first poem in the book, and I just to kind of give you a sense of who we were. 3 writer women. Down the shore, Jersey Beach, Atlantic Ocean, boardwalk, bathing suits, boom boxes, banter between women. Notice I'm going to call us women. But I have a friend who always says, hey, lady. I hated that once because I don't want to consider myself a lady by some uppity mannered society standards, all proper and polite, rather than outspoken, ready to stand for justice, for meaning of self, rather than self in relation to someone else. But I came to love the sound of the word lady exiting her mouth, the slight Texas accent, the tone of both prickly pear cactus and peach cobbler in her voice. Sometimes injustices and big issues like body sovereignty, unequal pay, rates of violence makes me petty about other things that aren't really worth it, like the word lady. There's also a part of me that says, here I am down the shore with my girls. Another word I wouldn't have used before because it's dangerous to confuse women and girls. But with that familiar language, I feel like us 3 writer women have each other's backs. And it's like we've known each other for a long, long time. Okay, and then I'm gonna end on one, and I will find that other poem at some point and read it to you. It'll like just combobulated somehow. Yes, okay. Yeah. So how the world looks. This just kind of reminds me of all the different perspectives we have and carry, and somehow that can, you know, I think take us in a different direction when we're struggling ourselves, right? Out to eat sushi. We walk the boards into Ventnor. In the restaurant, a 7-year-old girl wears the same color yellow blouse as Abigail and sits down on the booth seat beside her as if they are old friends. Tells her to order shrimp tempura sushi. Abigail does. The girl asks if she's a student. Abigail says she isn't anymore, that she went to school for as long as she could, and then asks the girl if she'll go to college. The girl says she's only in 2nd grade and she isn't thinking of college yet. She asks Abigail if she graduated. Yes. And what did it look like? Abigail says, well, the world looked the same. The girl asks, what colors were there? Thank you.
Let's have one more round of appreciation to Brian Griffin, Marjory Wentworth, and Liza. Thank you so much for your important work. And now we may proceed to get the books or talk to the poets and chat with them. And I look forward to seeing you on April 6th for the next Poetrio quartet reading. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you.